Sometimes I find it funny. I'm looking at the words of the song and I'm just like, why would you tell the rain to that's not doing it or the sun that's not doing its job? And then I'm like, well, I wouldn't want to have that conversation. And then it's like, wait a minute, what's wrong with the rain? Sometimes, and my brain starts going, does your brain do that too sometimes? And it's like this song, I've heard it 4,000 times. And it's like, yeah, but the rain's really good too. In fact, sometimes I really like the rain. And then it's like, yeah, but then in the end, it just kind of figures itself out, right? And I was like, okay, I can relax now. ah, Sometimes where this brain goes just is kind of fun. So, having said that, um, the name of the talk, this isn't woo woo. How many people have ever heard that expression, woo woo? How many people have ever heard that or seen or experienced something that seemed a little bit woo woo? And you're kind of sitting there going, And I want to talk about that because when I used to hear that word, there was a part of me that went like, no, that's really not what we're talking about here. And although unity could be considered in some respects new age, certainly it was when it first came out, what I would argue is that no, not really in any way, shape, or form. Because people hear this word spirituality and imagine somebody hugging trees. They imagine carrying crystals and they imagine, you know, talking to wind chimes and all this crazy stuff, right? And that there's nothing against tree. I'm a tree hugger, by the way, do it often, or crystals. There's nothing wrong with that stuff. But my experience has been that when you really start this process of going within, that it often looks much less glamorous. It's not quite exactly crystals and meditations and woo woo stuff. It actually looks kind of like, oh, I don't know, how about apologizing when you're wrong? How about going to therapy? How about keeping your word? How about forgiving someone who never said that they're sorry? How about getting up to meditate when you'd rather hit the snooze button? Anybody been there? Right? That has nothing to do with woo woo, folks. It's got everything to do with effort. The effort it takes once you start engaging in more of a spiritual life, the consistency it takes, the action. And guess where all this stuff is coming from? You. It's all coming from you, not anyone else. No one else is going to do this for you. It's all coming from you. And like I said last week in my talk, I mentioned this idea about your attention. What are you paying attention to? Right? And I sit up here every single week and we have these conversations. I love these conversations. But I think you know this about me that I would much rather create an environment where you can have more experiences. I think that's where it's at for me. And that's what my hope and prayer for you is. That's what happens when you start having a spiritual life. You understand that, oh, you mean I'm going to have to start putting in some time and I'm going to have to start putting in some effort and I'm going to have to start doing some things. Yeah. Yep. Yeah, you are. And one of the things I realized when I first got started that, I thought it was all about just being in meditation and in bliss all day long. How many people thought that one? There's a few of you. And while that does happen at times, don't take me wrong, it does happen. But most of the time, when you look at it, again, it just looks like, oh, I don't know, effort, effort. And that may look like, yeah, maybe sitting down and meditating for 20 or 30 minutes. It may look like, oh, I don't know, how about driving here on a Wednesday evening and participating in a group of circling where people want to get really connected on a much, much, much deeper basis because you're looking for connection in your life. And maybe you got to drive here. For me, it's a 35-minute drive here. And maybe that's what you need to do. Maybe not. Or maybe, I don't know, maybe you checked out something online and you go and you sit in the woods in silence for 3 days. Or maybe you sit down and you journal. Every single one of these things, every single one of them looks a little bit different. But here's what my experience has been and what I'm prodding, poking you always to consider. It's going to take some effort if you decide, hey, it's time for me to go into a deeper relationship with God, into my divinity, into my understanding, into my own growth, into my own expansion, into my own awareness, into my own awakening. It's not going to fall into your lap. It's going to require you to actually do something about it. And so as I think about that, I'm thinking like those are some things, but here's what I know. There's a lot of wisdom right here, right now. So I'm just kind of curious, what are some other ways that it looks like to you? Raise your hand if you got a thought or an idea or you just want to share something. Anything. What does it look like for you? Yes. So you're going to places where you don't know anybody and you're uncomfortable. That's your push. I love that. Beautiful. Anybody else? What does it look like for you? What does your spiritual principles, practices look like for you? What do you do? Yeah, Jay. Oh, Tim. Yeah. Going to something that doesn't necessarily feel good because you know that when you go to it, it's actually going to expand you. Yeah, I totally get that. Totally get that one. Yes. Eating healthy, not drinking. Yeah, 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 absolutely. Yep. Anybody else? Always being aware of the stories I tell myself, even when, and just understanding that they may not be serving me. Oof, boy, we could spend an hour on that one. You're not kidding. Anybody else? These are all just thoughts. They're all, oh, I'm sorry, Rob. Getting on the yoga mat before breakfast in the morning. Yeah, that yoga mat. Charles. So going on the road for 12 years, even though I had no idea other than Spirit tapping me on the shoulder and say, it's time to go for a ride. And not having a map, not having a clue what that meant or what it was going to look like. Yeah, absolutely. Phyllis. Yeah. Yeah. Just being more aware of your thoughts. Whew. Again, that's an hour-long conversation. Sarah? Sitting in discomfort, not trying to change anything or control it. Oof. Yeah. Isn't that the truth? Yeah. Reading your daily word of other positive stuff. Yeah. This is good. This is good. Cheryl. Yeah, so really what she's talking about is becoming conscious. When you start to become aware, you start to do this work, you start to notice old patterns that you have, and you start to go, you know, that pattern isn't really helping me or serving me anymore. I want to break out of that pattern. I don't want to change that. That's kind of what I was talking about a couple of weeks ago when we started talking about the lesson will stay there until it's learned. The same kind of a thing. Yes. One more. Ian. Sitting in discomfort like taking a cold shower. I do not sit quietly when I do a cold shower, just so there's a lot of clarity in it. But I do cold plunges, so I can relate to that. Yeah. Yeah. So, all of these things that we're talking about, first of all, did you notice how everybody didn't have the same story? All of us don't do it the same way. All of us find our own little way of doing it. And I would argue that if we sat here and made a list, we'd probably come up with about 200 different things that you can do. And all of them are workable. All of them will help you as long as you're doing them on a consistent basis, which is the key to the whole thing, in my opinion. And every single one of these things have something in common. And that is when they're done on a consistent basis, they will actually help you raise your vibration, right? There's a popular quote often attributed to Tesla, and Tesla said, if you want to find the secrets of the universe, think in terms of energy, frequency, and vibration. And what Tesla is really referring to, what he's talking about, is what many spiritual traditions have taught for centuries. And that is that if you can imagine this, that there is a different reality that's going on all around us. Beneath the physical world, it lies this deeper reality, if you will. It's a reality of different energy, different relationships, and a different resonance. I kind of consider this to be an awareness that this thing exists, even if you don't feel it, even if you don't experience it, doesn't mean that it's not there. It's kind of like radio waves. Right here in this moment, what's happening is all around us. There's radio waves and other waves that are going on inside of this building right now, right? We're not even aware of it. Why? Because we're not tuned into it. Does that mean that they don't exist? No. Because I can assure you, if I were to bring a radio up here right now and tune it to a station, all of a sudden you'd hear what's going on with that station. And you'd hear what it's playing, and you get to experience what's going on with that station, whether it's music or talking or whatever it is that's going on. There's hundreds of these stations going on. And the point that I'm trying to make here is that the same thing is existing on a spiritual level. There's all kinds of stuff going on. We just don't know it. Because if we don't dial in, we don't hear what's being said or being given to us or the gifts or whatever it is that's going on. And that doesn't mean that what's being broadcast or what's being shared with you or what's being given to you doesn't exist. It just means that what? We can't hear it. Why? Because it's happening at a frequency that you're not tuned into. And what I'm telling you is that this thing is happening with you. God hasn't left you, ever. We are always connected, always, to this thing. This messages, this communication, this experience is happening and swirling around us all the time. But if we don't slow down enough, we will miss it, and we don't get to hear it. You don't get to experience it. And there's no difference between you slowing down, you tuning into it, spending time in silence with yourself, than tuning into a radio station. It's the same exact thing. Only this time you get to tune into a deeper reality, a deeper experience. You get to have the experience of this thing called God that's actually with you 24/7, that's constantly reminding you, sharing with you different messages and different things that you can do. And when you start to do this, you will find out that it can be a pretty freaking cool thing to experience. It's amazing to me how often things happen to show up. Although I didn't use it, I was preparing for this talk and I thought, how cool would it be to find a song that kind of had some words that would kind of resonate with what I'm trying to say here? I'm kidding you. It was within about 2 minutes going on, and I'm going through my thing, and I got my little DJ going, and all of a sudden, like, I'm not really paying attention, but all of a sudden I start listening to these words of the song, and I'm like, oh my God, like, this is so good. Because it totally resonated with this, the message I'm sharing with you this morning. And it was like, how does that happen? And the more that I play with this, the more I experience it, the more that I realize is God's just saying, it'll happen more if you'll just slow down and tune in to what's going on. But you got to slow down, right? This deeper reality exists. It's alive. It's happening right here, right now. It's happening. But unless you're turning in, you'll miss it. It doesn't mean that it's not real. It's very real. God is real. Your soul is real. Love is real. But we miss it, right? Because if you're not tuned into them, then you start convincing yourself, oh, this isn't real. And over time, we start to think, well, there's really nothing going on here. There's nothing here. And then in some cases, we get to the point to where we honestly, we just quit looking. And then we just stop. And then all of a sudden, it's like, whoa. And then hopefully, you come back here, we pat you on the butt, say, hey, it's still here. You're still okay. You're going to be all right. Hang in there. But we've all been there, right? All of us have been there. It's part of this experience. It is. I always say this, that spirit and real spirituality isn't measured by what you believe, it's measured by what you practice. Oh. So it's not all woo-woo. It's not all woo-woo, folks. Not at all. The Bible says Jesus went often to pray. Isn't that what the Bible said? Last time I checked, I think that's what it said. Prayer was a big part of his practice. It took time, it took effort, it took his focus, his attention. There was no woo-woo there. None. None whatsoever. Recently, I went through, how many people have heard about the book or read the book Siddhartha? How many people? Oh, come on. Okay, I've got a few people. Siddhartha. It's a story of Buddha. Yes, thank you for the hands that went up. I'm like, oh my God, am I in the wrong place? It's a story of Buddha. It's a beautiful story. If you haven't, I'm sure you'd enjoy it, but it's a story that after years of being on the spiritual path, Siddhartha, he had lived as a Brahmin. He had studied with holy men. He followed the Buddha. He was practiced extreme asceticism. He decides to go back into the city. He's like, yeah, I've had enough of that for a while. I'm gonna go check out the city. And so he heads into the city, right? And when he does, he has this experience, and he experiences wealth, and he experiences success, and he experiences love, and he experiences drink, and he experiences all the things there are to experience. And he does that for a while, right? Until one day he finally looks at all of it and he goes, I can't do this anymore. I cannot do this anymore. I can't do it. And one night he decides to leave it all behind. And he winds up giving everything away that he's accumulated over the years. And he goes back into the woods, into a simple life. And he finally meets the simple ferryman called Vasudeva. And Vasudeva lives in a very simple hut on the side of the river. And he ferries people across the river that need to get across the river. And Vasudeva lives a very simple life, if you were to look at it in the traditional sense. No fancy clothes, no fancy home, no fortune, no fame, and yet, while it does appear that he doesn't have very much going on from the outside, what Siddhartha realizes is inside, he's as rich as a king. He realized that Vasudeva has figured it out, that all the riches come from here. And he starts studying with the Vasudeva. And what he would notice is that people would come and see Vasudeva because he was a simple man with simple clothes and simple means, and they would judge him. Well, they had all the fancy stuff, all the fancy clothes, everything else like that. And they would look at him and yet not realize that he was a king. He really was. And so Siddhartha starts to study with him, and he realizes that this man has the ability to be present, and he has the ability to really be able to slow down and connect. And what Vasudeva teaches Siddhartha is that the river can teach him if he would listen to it. And so what he does is, over time, he teaches Siddhartha how to listen to the river. And he tells Siddhartha, he said, the river is a great teacher and has many messages for you. But you got to be able to slow down. They're only available to you if you tune in and listen to the river. And so once again, Siddhartha slows down and he starts listening to the river, and he starts to have the experience he had when he was younger, only this time it was a direct experience. It wasn't coming as a result of all the great teachings he had. It wasn't a result of everything, all the mantras he said. It wasn't a result of anything. He was just in pure being, in connection with God. And that's what the river taught him, how to do that. And so he learned how to listen, right? The goal of spirituality isn't to become more informed. Just know that. There's nothing wrong with learning. I think learning is a part of the process, but it goes past so much further than that. It's to become more transformed, to learn how to be in the presence and just be, to not need anything that's outside of yourself and be able to rest in that and be with it. One of the things I just absolutely love about Jesus and Siddhartha is neither one gives us a shortcut. There's no shortcut here. There's no shortcut. Jesus didn't tell people just to pray. He actually did it himself as well. He was a great example. He set a great example. Siddhartha didn't merely admire the river, he sat beside it until it changed him, right? That's the difference between knowing about God and actually having the experience of God. And what I'm going to share with you is the experience is where the game is at, folks. That's where you want to go. That's where you want to be, is the experience. Unity originally was called practical Christianity, for those of you that don't know. And I think that's one of the most beautiful descriptions of living a spiritual life, because spirituality isn't measured by what we believe. It's measured, again, by what we practice, right? The fifth unity principles out of the 5 unity principles is knowing and understanding the laws of life, also called truth, are not enough. It's not enough. A person must also live the truth that you know. That's when it becomes your lived experience. The goal isn't to collect more spiritual ideas, become wise, become wisdom, to eat more information, more information, more information, more information. It's actually just about becoming more available to God, to become more loving, to become more peaceful, to become more present. This isn't hard, of course, unless you make it hard, which we have a tendency to do. Doesn't our mind try to make this thing hard? I don't understand it. It's like, it's simple, folks. Just sit down there, be quiet, listen, and see what may be there for you, right? Making time for these practices, quieting the noise, opening your heart, and help you recognize the presence that really has been with you all along. This isn't escaping life. This isn't woo-woo. It's not. And who knows, maybe this is why Jesus went away and Siddhartha sat beside the river, not because God were somewhere else. It's just that they knew that's what they needed to do to have the experience. And they did it over and over and over and over and over again. That was their practice. And so I leave you with that. Hopefully there was a nugget or two in there for you, maybe 1 or 2. I always sit up here every single Sunday and my heart is just full because you're here, each and every one of you. I don't take any of you for granted in any way, shape, or form. You are the living embodiment of the divine. Don't ever forget that, ever. And you're doing a great job. You're fantastic. And whether you come see us in person every now and then, or you're watching us online, whichever way it is, I want you to know that you are making a difference, a tremendous difference in whatever it is that you do. All of us have our own little thing that we do, whether we're putting out fires or we're singing songs and everything in between. All of us have a role to play, and there's not one of them that's better than the other. And yet some of us feel like, oh yeah, but it's not quite that, Mike. It's not what you're doing, Mike. Who cares what Mike does? Honestly. I mean that sincerely. I want you to actually understand that you are the embodiment of the divine. And just by you being alive and breathing and being you, full expression of you. You are doing what you were meant to do. Thank you. Thank you for that. We are blessed to have you. We are blessed to have you be here. We are blessed to have your energy in this room and on these Sunday mornings and gathering us in community. All of it. We are so lucky. I personally am so grateful to each and every one of you. Thank you for who and what you are. Thank you for sharing that with us. Thank you for showing up here on Sundays, maybe even when you don't want to. We're really, really grateful. I hope you have an absolutely fantastic week. I hope you join us afterwards to see all the goodies that are out there and stick around for a cup of coffee and a donut or a cookie. You are so loved. You are so amazing. You're so beautiful. Thank you. Thank you. Thank you. Thank you. God bless. Namaste. Namaste. Thank you.